Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out malicious compliance. Story 1. It wasn't in your contract requirements. This story came from an IT coworker who previously worked at a recently expanded data center and was indirectly involved with the legal mess. The data center's company determined that a redundant internet connection was needed and reached out to a few internet service providers with a list of the data center's requirements. One of the service providers underbid the hell out of everyone else. The coworker expressed concerns over that, but management didn't care because the service provider assured them that they would meet all of the requirements. Some long time passed and they heard nothing further from the service provider after the contract was signed. Strange. As the date of the service start approached, the service provider was asked when they were going to visit the data center for a site survey to start their connection. The service provider requested specifications of the data center's connection infrastructure to the internet. Data center said they had no redundant fiber connections and they were expecting the service provider to do the installation work. The email response from the service provider included new people in the email chain. Turns out the requirement didn't specifically state that the service provider had to build the cable infrastructure to connect the data center. The service provider's legal team insisted that the contract only required the service provider to allow the data center to access the internet, and the service provider assumed the data center already had the physical infrastructure in place for the tap to be turned on. When the company pushed to have the contract cancelled, the service provider's legal team insisted that the company had already agreed to a one-year contract and they would pay up full even if they couldn't use the internet due to the lack of cables. The outcome of the hostile closed-door negotiations was that the company backed out of the contract by paying the service provider a sum of money that was equivalent to a few months of service, and restart the bidding, this time with the requirements significantly rewritten. When the same service provider put their offer in again, for some reason it was rejected immediately. Story 2. Order a basic door, pay for a fancy one. I work as an engineer at a sauna company. We have many different sauna doors. One salesperson writes to me to get a door with special measurements. The door in question is a rather fancier door with fancy wooden trimmings on polished aluminium and frosted glass, except the costumer don't want the fancy stuff. I first draw one of the less fancy doors that is exactly to the specification of the costumer. Well, that is not good enough. I get a request to change it to the fancier model and remove the fancy stuff. This will make no difference. I literally just change the name on the drawing to the fancier name. I do no other changes. The costumer is satisfied and puts in the order. That of course means that the costumer pays the more expensive price. It's like ordering a cheeseburger and removing the cheese and still pay extra for the cheeseburger. Just that this time it was a $150 upcharge. Story 3. Happy birthday. I'm a twin. When we were about 12 years old, our mom told us we have to get each other birthday presents, which we've never done before. We secretly agreed to get each other a card with $100 in it. At this age $100 was a lot of money, I don't even know why we had it. Saved allowances maybe? We both acted excessively surprised and thankful when we both opened them at the same time. Mom sighed and chuckled and never asked again. Story 4. Refuse to help, let's play a little game. Back around 1987 I was a courier on the afternoon shift 11:30 am to 8:30 om. Dispatch cut off the calls at 6 p.m. and after a 5-minute grace period you could clear and go home at 6:05 p.m. and get paid to 8:30 p.m. My route had a highway down the middle and the roads I covered on both sides had a lot of businesses. Those roads were busy with a 40 km per hour, 25 miles per hour, speed limit and lots of lights. My route get very busy and I would often be at one end of the area and get calls at the last minute for the opposite end. The only way to make it work was to use the highway often and speed. Next to my area was another courier we will call Richard, Dick for short. Dick would finish early and wait on the on-ramp of the highway at 5:50 p.m. daily, waiting to clear and go home early. As I got too busy I got in the radio and asked Dick to help with 2 to 4 calls, and guess what? He refused. I went to my manager requesting they help with my workload. Management informed me that there was no one that could help and I had to suck it up. When I informed him that Dick was right there and had quite a bit of free time, he still said it was my route and my problem. I am pissed at this point and figure screw it, I will definitely figure it out. One of the key items at work was that the nightly line haul truck must leave on time at 8:30 p.m. sharp or management hears from head office. The very next day I start my route and I do not use the highway and stick to the speed limit religiously. I roll in the first day at 9 p.m. on overtime with the managers calling me every 5 minutes for an ETA. I have 3 managers waiting for me to explain and simply told them it was busy and went home. Next day, same results, so I keep this up for a week. After a full week of my tardiness, management is under pressure and they come to me to do better. I point out that there is a speed limit and maybe Dick could help. They tell me I should pick up the pace, speed, and at that point I said no problem, put that in writing. They walked away deflated, hoping I would be back earlier. Nope. I did this another week, much to the utter dismay of the managers. At the end of the second week the managers meet me again at the dock with a noticeable smugness about them. They informed me that as a group they have come up with a solution. I listened as they explained how they did a route analysis and have determined that Dick should get about 25% of my area to help out. The beauty was that I retained the best area and Dick got all the crappy calls. Monday rolls around and they informed Dick of his new route and he is pissed and vocal about it. The line haul truck on time the rest of the week and Dick worked to 8:30 nightly. The new route was great and enjoyed to reduced stress. Dick lasted about another 2 months then quit. Lesson is don't be a dick. Story 5. You have to pay at this machine. It legitimately pains me to write this one because I love this barber shop. My barber shop. I go here all the time along with my sons. Always great haircuts. Always. Today's malicious compliance has to do with trying to simply pay the bill. One gentleman gave me my recently updated cable from Deadpool 2 Undercut, great as usual. My son got his crazy 16-year-old cut. His cut took a lot longer, like 3 more people got their cut, than mine, so I waited until both of its were done to pay. Then it was time to pay as my son walked toward me. I checked his cut out with cash in hand as I heard a man yelling, "Sir! Sir! Hey, you need to foo at King Pay." Okay. I started to walk towards him with my clearly visible cash, but he wasn't looking at me. He said, "You can't not pay, you come over here and pay right now." I tried handing him cash. He slapped it out of my hand. Like a salt slapped my hand so hard 2 of the bills fell out. Then he said, "You need to pay at this machine." Slapping his hand hard on the machine. I was pissed at this point, and embarrassed because I could feel the awkwardness in the air. Enter malicious compliance. I was livid. According to a forgotten comedian, that's 4 degrees past pissed. I decided, hand still stinging, I'm choosing today to stick up for myself. I slapped my money the way he slapped my hand, directly on his machine. I kept picking the machine up, scanner, to look for a hole to put my cash into. I tried flattening it, bending it, folding it, whatever it took to shove this money into the machine. I really hammed it up, a la O.J. Simpson sticking his tongue out trying to put a glove on. Then it finally happened. The man finally lost his mind. "Why did not you tell me it was cash? Why? I could have argued. I just stood there staring, knowing he would spin himself into a tizzy. He totally did, but not in the way I could have expected. He ripped my money, threw it in the air, yelled and walked away, pushing barbers' chairs that other people were sitting in. Everyone was yelling back at him. It would have been more entertaining if I wasn't worried this dude was going to end in handcuffs by day's end. I didn't stay around, you find out. And yet, both barbers got an $8 tip. They have to sweep it up now though. To those who will most assuredly ask, I have decided not to press charges as of yet. I really have no intention of doing so. I really have no idea if I'm going back. Maybe I'll make a joke of it, waving my cash in the air upon entry. The other barbers there really didn't seem to react in a way that indicated this was anything new. Update, how the turntables. So I go back and forth about what to do, because we've been coming to this barber exclusively for the last 8 months or so, minus an occasional touch-up here and there at great clips, I know. I decided to call and, well, I don't know what I was going to say or even start. Luckily I didn't have to say much. As soon as the barber answered, not the angry one, he was all apologies. Profusely apologizing. Ever since Soma passed, our father had not been the same, and we've talked about this with him. He added a bunch of other age-related excuses that garnered my sympathy, and made me look at things in a new light. Well, the light has been shining the whole time, I just had my eyes opened, I suppose. I should have seen the clues. He took 5 times as long, easily, as everybody else. They have his chair way back in the corner away from the front window. There were signs I clearly ignored. Being an aged individual myself, I didn't want to pigeonhole this guy based on his salt and pepper hair. But I should have taken a step back instead of clapping back at a 60-plus-year-old. I'm definitely chalking this one up as a mulligan. For both of us. Sorry cuz mobile. Story 6. Require me to tie my hair back, no problem. This was many years ago. Background info, I'm a male. At the time, I was working for a software company in the IT department. My work took me all over the company every day. The CEO and many of the management staff had a conservative lean. I'd left the military a few years prior to this, and for the first year I kept my hair short, but I slowly got lazy about having it cut every month. Subsequently, my hair slowly got longer and longer. The incident, eventually, I just decided to see what it was like with long hair, so I let it grow out. After a few months, it was well past my shoulders. Then, one day, my manager asked to speak to me. He said, "People above me have noticed your hair." I said, "Oh, do they like it?" Yes, I was a smart ass. He frowned, sighed while rolling his eyes, and then said, "Look, I don't care, but all they're asking is that you tie your hair back." I said, "Is Susan at the front desk going to start tying her hair back? And Karen in sales? Or Margie, you know, Margie who has hair down to her waist? Is she going to tie her hair back? Did her manager have this conversation we're having?" He sighed again. He clearly hated passing on this request. He said, "I can't order you to do it, but it comes strongly recommended." I said, "Fine, I'll have it tied up tomorrow." He looked very relieved. Before going home I checked on the company dress code. There was none. Compliance. The next day I came to work with a huge bright pink bow tying my hair back. I wore Daisy Duke-like shorts and wore a fishnet tank top. My manager saw me and just rolled his eyes. A couple months later I was fired as part of downsizing. It was then I found out how much the skills I'd developed over the years were worth, and easily I got a job making well over twice as much. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.